Hi, good afternoon, friends. This is Carlos Caloy Conde again for another episode of Open Talk. Such a beautiful day, but we will be uh, tackling a very important issue, and I hope today the discussion will end maganda pa rin yung araw after this. But this morning, I'm joined by three esteemed colleagues and good friends. Ariel Sibilino, the Executive Director of the Philippine Press Institute. We have also Dean Diosa Laviste, our good friend, who is the Dean of the College of Media and Communications of the University of the Philippines in Diliman. And we also have with us Jonathan De Santos, who is the Chairman of the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines. Thank you all three for agreeing to talk to me on this one. Welcome to the show. So, just a little bit of background here, guys, in terms of why we're doing this episode. So, as the world knows by now, um, there was a whole kind of worms opened by the post of Pasig Mayor Vico Soto about the supposed or his implication that some vloggers or journalists, newsreaders, however you want to call them, Julius Babao, Corina Sanchez, interviewed the contractor, the Discayas, supposedly, allegedly, the implication being that money was exchanged. Although, to be fair to both Julius Baba and Corina Sanchez, there has not been any proof of that kind of allegation or implication. But that post by Mayor Soto um, pretty much, I would say, roiled the media community and the political scene in the Philippines. And so, we're now back to something that's familiar to a lot of us, certainly to our guest. Why are we still discussing media corruption and media ethics? I mean, as longtime journalists, we have grappled with this issue for a long time, but yet to this day, it's still a persistent problem, persistent issue that every now and then kind of roils the media community, as I said. So let me now ask our guest here that very question. Why are we still dealing with media ethics and media corruption after all these things have been debated and discussed for years and years and years? We start with Ariel. Give us your insight on this one.
Wala naman talagang masama kung pag-uusapan madalas dahil kailangan talagang pag-usapan whether it's about media corruption or ethics. More importantly because involved na ang public natin ngayon, Kaloy, nakikialam na o nangingialam na sa journalism. Kahit nga sa sa press conference, the way you ask questions sa mga journalists, andun sila eh. The more na kailangan nating to be open to the public yung paano tayo gumalaw, paano natin ginagawa yung trabaho natin. Otherwise, yung trust natin na ibalik yung confidence tsaka yung trust ng public ay hindi yan tayo makakamit pag hindi natin sinama sila sa discussion. Kailangan pag-usapan kasi kailangan nating i-resolve o bigyan ng solusyon itong corruption.
Dean Diosa, your thoughts on that one, on that question of why are
Okay.
we still talking about this?
Okay. So the Code of Ethics of Filipino Journalists is an important document that's actually united generations of journalists and media practitioners in the country around principles of fairness, accuracy, transparency, and accountability. It was finalized in 1988, by the way, and it was a document that supported reforms post 1986, reforms in the media. So yung post 1986 is what we call the period of democratization when we are tearing down the vestiges of the Marcos dictatorship. However, the code of ethics, despite its categorical exhortation like you shall not, remains to be a set of guiding principles of journalism in the Philippines. What it lacks, as I think many of you would agree with this, is an institutional expression, a body or a an organization that could be an effective oversight for the fulfillment of this code as a code of ethics for journalists. So why is there no such no Why is there no such body to oversee the adherence to the code of ethics? There were attempts actually in the 1980s, the late 1980s and in the 1990s. However, there was a tacit consensus to let media organizations self-regulate. Ito yung self-regulation na tinatawag natin. This means that media organization decided to self-police themselves because ayaw nila yung repeat na nangyari during the Marcos dictatorship, that the press, there was press censorship and control, and the freedom of the press was just a figment of the dictator's imagination. So yung assumption kasi ng self-regulation is there's strong editorial guidance in the newsroom or within news organization, yung practice ng ethics ay kasama sa news reporting or sa news production. However, this never fully happened. Kasi given the ownership structure of the media and the unevenness in training and editorial policies in the newsroom, in other words, walang standard approach tayo among newsrooms to adhere to ethics.
A lot of things to unpack there din Diyo sa media ownership, the failure of this code of ethics to really function. But John, so anong sense mo about this? I mean, you've been a long time journalist, and now you're heading in UJP, which has been at the forefront of calling for these things. What's your sense?
Well, I think naman, wala namang pumapasok sa journalism aiming to be unethical or kumbaga to do it badly or to do it improperly, no? Tinuturo naman din talaga yung code of ethics when you study journalism, tsaka pagpasok mo sa newsroom. Yun nga lang, sometimes yung nakasabi sa code ay hindi, kumbaga, when you get to the practice, medyo mahirap din. I think isang pwede nating uh, ayusin or parang i-improve this. Oo nga, alam natin kung anong bawal, we know how to do it. Dapat, no? Pero minsan kulang sa real life parang application para paano ba tumanggi or paano ba what happens if you're in this sort of situation. Kasi when you're on the beat, more or less, you rely on siguro more more experienced journalists ay hindi naman necessarily sila um, hindi naman necessarily ethical yung practice nila. No? So, kunyari, nung bata ako, may mga nagsasabi, okay lang tumanggap dahil X, dahil Y, or whatever. Marami may justifications eh. And yun yung sort of practice na if it's not nipped in the bud, pwedeng mag-lead to what is being alleged now na parang may mga malalaking payoffs for good coverage, no? So yun. Kaya mabuti rin na lagi natin pinag-uusapan to kasi as a reminder din, dahil minsan we're stuck in the day-to-day of reporting, na makakalimutan natin, oh, what are we doing this for? Paano ba dapat to, talaga to ginagawa? May mga ganung bagay.
Magandang points yun, no? All of your points are good, but there's one thing that I would like to zero in on, which is that and all your insights on this one I'm sure will be very very valuable. But from my from my perch as a former journalist, and then I became an advocate, particularly on human rights. One of the things that was very very clear to me as an advocate was that the only way you can end impunity is accountability. Well, one of the many ways, but that's a kind of the top ways is accountability. If people are not held to account for the lapses they committed, then it's all for naught. So my question now is that okay, all of these codes of ethics are there. I mean, they're like, but to me, they're like the Ten Commandments. It's there. God says, don't do this, don't do that, but we keep violating that because people are not being held to account. There's no, for lack of a better word, damnation from God every time you violate the rules of the Ten Commandments. So in a way, sa codes of ethics, ganun din. So if malinaw yung code of ethics ng PPI, but if a journalist, particularly a member of the PPI, violates those, what exactly are we talking about in terms of accountability here, Ariel?
Ganito. So, madaming media organizations sa Pilipinas, Kaloy, and that's a good thing because we're talking of pluralism in media. But I think it takes a whole village to really make everyone accountable, especially yung colleagues natin na may ethical breach. madaling i-pinpoint especially if a keen sense of ethics. Sabi ko nga, magandang pinoint at ni Jonathan kanina na even before you enter the industry, alam mo na whether you took a course on mass communication or journalism, alam mo na kahit anong industry ang papasukan mo, merong code of ethics o merong guidelines talaga kung paano mo iko-conduct yung sarili mo sa public at saka yung trabaho mo. Um, for an organization like people, just one of the many in the country, merong, well, there's the motherhood statement. Walang penalty. I have to be honest about that. Dahil gusto namin ang accountability measures and metrics andun sa sarili nilang mga newsrooms. Because kailangan idetalye ang code of ethics ng mga newsrooms. For example, Business World, grabe. I know when I was starting sa PPI, Raul Locsin, grabe yung, well, pagtanggap ng pagtanggap o hindi pagtanggap ng regalo, yung mga ganon, di ba? Meron mga newsrooms sa strict naman, but when a journalist is out there, mahirap po nang i-monitor unless, sabi nga ni Mr. Santos, ni Berhel Santos, kailangan din natin i-expose ang ating mga kasamahan if they have ethical breach, which is not easy to do kasi nga we're all friends, colleagues, etc. We protect each other. Pero dahil itong panahon na to, meron na nangyari, case in point kay Corina, kay Vico, kay Julius Babaw, the more na kailangan natin siyang paigtingin yung usapin. Kasi merong stake ang public na malaman ano nga ba ang tama o mali. Expected sa atin kung anong tama o mali. But we fall short of the expectation din ng public na, ay, ito higher calling niyang mga journalist. Meron mas iba siya. Mas iba yung profession nila. If you call it profession, job naman siya. Di wala naman
Mhm.
license examination. So, any ethical breach for that matter ay kailangan respondihan ng any media organization. If one belongs to NUJP, uh, there are stricter guidelines, then call out. Pag ang PPI naman ganito, which
But,
is not easy to
yeah,
do.
I'm sure there are news organizations na nagtanggal na ng mga reporter or ng mga editor
Ah,
because of
mm.
ethical lapses. But the problem is that it's something that's not really, hindi siya tipong parang yung ganung klase accountability nanggagaling sa Human Resources Department ng newsroom na
Ah,
yun. So parang as an industry, or to put it more bluntly, wala pa akong natatandaan na may dinisiplina ang PPI or ang NUJP about ethical lapses. And in
wala
fact,
talaga. I have to be
and in
honest.
fact, yeah.
Oo, wala.
Actually, nakatuhog ito dun sa issue na binanggit ni Dean Diosa, ano, na tipong, kasi yung mga ganitong klaseng, pag ginawa mo kasi ito, mas madaling mamanipula ito ng gobyerno to use it against the journalists. So, Diosa, is that something that you guys in the CMC
Oh,
are grappling with?
so, balik dun sa discussion na may na-sanction ba? May evidence naman to say that mga ethical practices are being shared on industry level. So in fairness to KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcasters sa Pilipinas, there were also instances that it has proven itself to be an effective self-regulatory body when acted on complaints against news organizations and some individuals. So kung gusto ni Mayor Vico Soto, mag-file siya ng complaint before KBP. And I think KBP will be willing to handle the case because, to provide the platform to look at the issue and see kung ano ba yung ethical guidelines na violate. So,
Pero
balik tayo sa
sorry,
discussion. Yes,
dito
please.
sa depende kung member ng KBP. In as much as
Yeah.
pwede mag-complain kung member lang ng PPI, pero kung hindi members ng KBP or any organization for that matter, you can only file complaint, pero baka hindi na marespondihan. Kasi nga pwede naman sabihin, sorry, it's not a member of ganun-ganon. Sorry, but
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, yeah. I haven't looked at that, so that's probably something that I have to look into kung totoo bang members sila ng KBP. Um, Kasi it's interesting na yung experience ng Center for Media Freedom and Responsibilities, the CMFR called out unethical practices, no, for many years, and it earned big criticisms from big news organizations. but he continued calling them out anyway. Yung isang problem dito, I think it's closer to Jonathan's heart, yung killings of journalists in the Philippines. It presents a problem for those who see the deaths of journalists as ethics related, i.e., they were killed because they compromised the ethics of their profession, therefore they were targeted. However, the findings of CMFR and NUJP points to the fact that majority of those who killed were actually performing their jobs as journalists. We're not discounting that there were ethical breaches, pero yung investigation shows that the many of those killed were actually killed in the line of duty. So in other words, majority of those who were targeted were not because they were unethical, but because they fulfilling their watchdog or monitorial role as journalists, like what happened to Marlene Esperat and Jerry Ortega, among others. So etong problem ng ethics na ito yung reason why the public were, criticizing us, were targeting us is because we're unethical. Wala tong basis actually kasi yung general findings ng NUJP at CMFR points to the fact that they were actually doing their functions or jobs as journalists. So yung in the 1990s kasi, balik ng konti, medyo historical lang yung naisip ko is when media networks embark on intense race for ratings and revenues, and when television personalities ran for public office and media ownership more and more fell into the hands of political clans and dynasties, yung media ethics were given less attention. So, I agree with Ariel na pag-usapan natin to palagi kasi just to remind the owners and journalists alike that importante yung code of ethics natin. And for them to recognize that this is what actually guide us in general, how to go about, how to present ourselves before the public, how to go about with our day-to-day reporting, and how do we resolve issues that are stickler,
Yeah.
and how do we negotiate or make ourselves accountable before the public.
My fear always is that the code of ethics can be weaponized against journalists.
Yes.
Nakita natin yan during the pandemic or the rise of populist leaderships dati, hindi dati, hanggang ngayon, lawfare, etc. Okay, in the app, I'm going ahead of some kind of a solution. But in the absence of a stringent mechanism to enforce the code of ethics, mother statement as it is, kailangan merong kabuluhan ang public pressure talaga. Public pressure brought about by SOCMED kasi busy ang mga tao sa SOCMED and doon ang pinapalabas lahat, di ba? So kasi ang publiko ngayon masyadong pakialamero, and that's a good thing. Nangingialam sila kung ano yung trabaho natin precisely because uh, they're a stakeholder at meron silang kinalaman kung paano siniset yung agenda. Ang hindi lang nila alam kung ano yung code of ethics na well, alam na ng iba, pero not all. Alam na nila, mali, tama. Pero tayo alam natin, anong basis ng mali ang tama? Because there's the code of ethics. And the public has to be constantly reminded, as Josa said, na meron silang kinalaman sa paghubog. Ako, for one, uh, Jonas, yung mga training natin, di ba? Paghubog the next set of journalists. Um, Sila din yung nagko-call out ngayon, yung mga younger na may mali. Hindi sila complicit eh. Just because they're starting as, as young journalists, ay wala silang alam. Kasi meron ako nabasa dun sa Facebook na parang, bata ka pa, parang hindi mo pa alam. Hindi. Mabuti nga, meron silang stick doon. Kasi ginagawa nila yung trabaho nila.
Meron lang akong outlier na, I guess, take on it na tama si Rico na to call things like that out. Pero I was hoping na dumaan muna siya sa normal channels, try to get accountability. I feel na he could have gone to the station, Net25 for example, and raised a complaint no, or with the KBP nga. And then, kung wala nangyari doon, saka sana siya labas on Facebook. Okay naman na public pressure, okay naman din na, ayun, we're forced to talk about things like this, no? Pero wala kasing opportunity for yung institutional accountability. So, ang nangyayari dyan, and ang fear ko dito, again, it's an outlier at least, sobrang wala naman nagsusupport sa view ko na to, but um,
Balay ko kundi.
nag-call out, hindi nag-call out siya ng journalist, no? So, that's fine, but kailangan din natin tingnan na politiko tong taong to. I mean, he means well, we might like his politics, pero ano yan eh, may some power dynamic pa rin doon. And he's a very popular politician. Hindi naman siguro kaila sa atin that very popular politicians with popular calls have also in the past discredited journalists. No? I'm not saying yun yung ginagawa niya necessarily, but yun lang, siguro some caution on that note.
Well,
No? I'm not
actually,
saying, uh,
I
that's
was about to say, pareho tayo ng iniisip before you could
yeah,
actually talk. Gusto ko lang sabihin na it was easy for Vico to say that. Di kasi emboldened siya eh. He knows that he has the public support. He knows na parang ang tingin ng publiko sa kanya malinis.
yeah. Put another way, would he have done that if he were not against the Discayas?
yun, isa pa
Hindi
yun.
gagawin yun.
It
So,
doesn't
So,
take away from the fact na valid yung call niya, ha? It's an added layer lang of it.
hindi, pero tama. Meron ako, agree ako. Hindi mo, yung sinabi mo kanina, baka hindi nag-agree yung, ako, I for one. Kasi, unang-una, politiko yan eh. Ang politiko can actually weaponize anything. SOCMED, even the public trust, pwede niyang gamitin yon para to call out anybody. Then, alam niya sa sarili niya, siguro, confident siya na wala akong mali, wala akong uh, tama yung sasabihin ko, and I'll get the support that I can actually think of. Parang ganun.
actually, magandang point yun, ni John Axon, yung tungkol dun sa bakit dumiretso sa Facebook si Mayor Vico, no? Because, again, what he could have done was really seek an audience na 25 and clarify the whole thing. But apparently, he went into it with his gun fully loaded na. So, Josa, you know, you touched kanina yung as another layer of this issue, yung ownership. Because ibang usapan yung if we demand accountability or if we demand individual journalists to be ethical. Dapat maayos ka, dapat you learn all of this code of ethics so that when you graduate from UPCMC, dapat memorize mo na yan and then you have to make a commitment na magiging upstanding journalist ka, no? So, ibang usapan yun to expect journalists to sort of toe that line. Pero ibang usapan din yung structure ng Philippine media in terms of ownership, in terms of who controls it, who runs it, and we've seen a lot of instances where the power that's wielded by who owns the media has resulted in really disastrous effect on not just on journalists but on some media companies. So saan papasok dito yung usapin ng media ownership, yung structure ng media ownership sa Pilipinas para masolusyonan itong problema sa ethics?
We can actually say that, well, given the media ownership, therefore, it is likely that journalists would report according to the interests of their owner. It's easy to say that, but in our newsrooms, and I think that Jonax would agree with me, there are also journalists who try to perform to the best of their ability, given the constraints in their newsroom, and one of the constraints is media ownership. And these days, whether these news organizations are owned by oligarchs or big political clans, we are experiencing disinformation, fake news, declining trust in media, serious decrease in revenues, a shutdown of major news organizations, some of them owned by these political clans, and shake-ups in news organizations like the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Well, ABS-CBN and CNN happened last year and early this year, and this led to the loss of jobs of journalists and also the loss of avenues of public discourses. So yung old business model is of advertising revenues no longer holds, right? And the news organizations and these groups, news outfits are looking for ways to increase their profit. So ito na yung problema. How do you uh, uh,
Balance.
create profit or to with the predominance of social media, the use of metrics, yung analytics algorithm, yung race to be noticed, pose a challenge to the practice and norms guiding journalism. For example, journalists rely on social media for trending topics in the same way that all these actually exploded on social media. And these trending topics, they fashion into news stories and then expected to go viral. In other words, ito yung agenda setting function ng media is much diminished by all this. And yung independence din ng journalist was compromised as a result. So it appears now there's a gap between the practice of the observance of the code of ethics and the media practice, and this gap has actually widened. And so ano na yung pag-usapan natin? How do we, for example, think about ways of making journalists adhere to the code of ethics and restore the public's trust in media. Diba? Mahirap din yun. And some of the media practitioners see the controversy of Corina ignited by Mayor Vico and on the way that Corina and Julius report on the issue of the Discayas is a sign that what has gone wrong with self-regulating media. Hindi naman ang feeling ko. I think it's an unfair characterization that the disregard of the code of ethics led to the decline of journalism practice because it's more complicated. I think yung discussion natin dito, there are many things going on. And sa totoo lang, journalism has continued to thrive, giving us investigative journalism, brave documentaries, this podcast, fact-checking, and verification projects, independent news sites, and outer media. At the height of Duterte's drug war, I think ma-recall natin, a group of photojournalists even raised the questions about the code of ethics, principle of neutrality, and not taking sides and objectivity because nung na-witness na sa yung gruesome killings, they say that they're not just photojournalists, they're also citizens and human beings. So those are occasions where the codes of ethics was also put a question, but in constructive way. And Duterte, they was held to account because of the window given by these photojournalists, and we really have to thank them for their bravery at the time. So maraming ano ba yung solution? I think, Ariel, can you please tell us about the Citizen Press Council? It might be one of the ways, and if
Well,
we bring it to the national level, could it be a solution?
Before you answer that, Ariel, may I
ah,
just add something to that? Baka matouch mo na rin. Is
okay.
this? Because, each time we talk about the media ethics, always the focus is on the individual journalist or the behavior or the conduct of that journalist. Parang tipong, okay, everything rests on how this journalist conducts himself or herself. Hardly ever na mayroong discussion about yung accountability or culpability ng mga media owners on this one. Where should they
Yeah.
come in the discourse? Like in this case, Julius Babaw, Corina. I mean, apart from the media and the outfit that produces the show of Corina, I haven't heard anything from their higher ups. And also in many many other issues, laging yung individual journalist ang kumbaga hindi naman sacrificial lamb, but he's always the one crucified, called out, and all that. Hardly.
Yes.
So paano natin anuhin yun? Paano natin isasagutin yun?
Actually, oo nga, tama ka, no? Yung reporters or yung on-cam people ang pinakamadaling pagkariyahin, ano? If you look into, kunyari, in the same week or the same, siguro, past couple of weeks, isa sa mga hot topics was the junket, no, to Israel. Tapos, ang dami nagalit doon sa mga reporters, ba't kayo sumama, ganyan. Not sige, in a way, that is deserved kasi meron ka namang agency kahit paano to say no, I suppose. Um, pero at the same time, hindi naman sila mapupunta doon if the media network or if the newsroom didn't deem na it was good to send them or if there was no pressure, for example, from the embassy on the newsrooms, o magpadala naman kayo, ganun ano. And yun nga, madalas pag may mga palpak, ang sumasalo ay yung reporter. Actually, medyo troubling nga yun eh. Ang mangyayari niya usually is the reporter is at fault. Tapos, hugas kamay yung management. But, ay, hindi kami yan. When in fact, they're crucial in forming the newsroom culture that they work in. Ano? Um, ang dami mga batang journalists na papasok sa industriya na, oh, parang bright-eyed, idealistic, no? Tapos makikita mo over the years, parang nawawala yung ilaw sa kanila mga bata. Ganyan. Kasi nga, yung ideals na nadala mo pagpasok, bumabangga. Usually, in the case of in some story, for example, may political pressure, may take down na storya, may i-water down na storya. Ayun. So, yun yung kind of practice na napapass on or na nire-reinforce, unfortunately, at times.
Kaya nga, di ba, Kaloy, there's a clear dichotomy here between ownership in the community press tsaka ownership ng mga malalaki in the National Capital Region. So we're talking about survival in the community press in terms of, let's say, uh, madaling mag-compare kasi we've been going around and we saw struggles. We've seen struggles by many outside of the National Capital Region or urban areas. Let's say, for example, marami sa mga community press na family-owned or marami sa mga, let's say, members ng PPI na ang owners or publishers, wag yung malalaki, meron community press na malalaki community outlets na malalaki, ay journalists sila. Nanggaling sila, reporters, let's a case in point, yung Balikas in Batangas, the most revered, if not, di ba, in the region. Si Jonald, his publisher, his owner, his editor's reporter. So, yung balancing of the commerce and altruism, probably mas madali sa kanya. Kasi he's been through a lot from the beginning being a reporter, naging editor, hanggang naging owner siya ng sariling newspaper niya. What I'm saying is that ang media ownership ng malalaki, minsan elephant in the room pa rin ah ayaw natin pag-usapan, especially pag andun siya. Remember when we were doing the Media Nation for so long a time, kung naka-attend ako a couple or tatlo yata. Pero sa early part na andun pa yung mga owners, etc. How comfortable are you pag you bring both owners and employees sa isang kwarto, ang pag-uusapan nila economic welfare? Siyempre hindi. Kasi ang nasa isip ng mga owners, magrereklamo lang ng mga yan And every time na we talk about economic welfare, dapat ipaalam sa kanila, doing good, sa owners doing good journalism is good business. Magsa-survive ka, we can only talk about sustainability and viability once you embrace the whole idea of doing good journalism. And that's probably a percentage of the altruism of it. Pero yung commerce, ako, Jonax Dindiosa, I agree. Leave the commerce to the owners because that's precisely their job to be able to have salaried employees. Hindi problema yan ng mga reporters, editors mo kasi in the first place, kinuha mo sila, ginawa mo silang empleo dahil alam mo sa sarili mo, babayaran or hindi mo alam na dapat babayaran mo sila ng tama. 'Di ba? Ako, ano naman to, no holds barred to No holds bar pala. Dati sa PPI Jonax Dinjosa, alam nyo naman to. Hindi namin pinag-uusapan yung mga economic survival kasi puro excellence in reporting, puro mga ethics, especially yung time pa ni Berhel Santos. Until such time, naramdaman yun ng paghihingalo ng industriya, especially nung pandemic. Doon pa lang kumilos, sorry to say, this is a self-criticism of my own organization, which is good. We're talking about ethics here. We're talking about problems of our industry. Mas maganda i-mirror natin yung sarili nating organization. That was the only time we were talking about, naku, paano to? After ng pandemic, wala na. Yung 12 na nag-close, baka madagdagan pa. Baka wala ng PPI. Baka wala na isang media organization. Supposedly, magsusteward or magiging custodian of that sorts ng industriya, etc. Yung gano'n lang naman.
That's an interesting point, no? Pero ang ang reality sa media, at least when I was still with media, is that once the owners are, I mean, of course, they call the
Mm,
shots in the business side of it, but
Mm.
uh, we can't we can't deny that a lot of the practices by the owners and their managers have a direct impact on how their journalists in the newsroom or
mm,
on its behave as far as
yeah,
ethics is concerned, right?
mm.
Okay, usapan natin yung halimbawa yung mga advertorial na yan. A lot of staff, the news editorial staff, are being asked to write advertorials by the advertising department, by the managers and by the owners. And marami sa mga staff ng mga newsroom ay ginagawa na nito as part of their job. Wala, kailangan kumita ng dyaryo, kailangan kumita ng magazine. So this is our way of helping out in terms of the business. Pero sometimes kung ganun lang yung usapan, parang medyo mapatawad mo pa eh. Pero may mga usapan minsan na talagang, ano na eh, medyo, hindi naman garapal, but medyo sumusobra na eh. Like for instance, pagkakataon na yung cover ng isang magazine ay ibibigay sa kung sino man ang makabili ng libu-libong kopya ng magazine, yung mga ganun.
At
So,
saka, sorry, case in point bago ko lang makalimutan, since pinag-uusapan na natin yung mga practices na okay, for some hindi okay. Imagine mo, in the community press, yung reporter, supposedly dapat reporter lang sa during the journalistic job, ay inaalaw ng owner na mag-market, na
yeah.
mag-newspaper kasi ang usapan is that, oh, ano ha, kasi hindi naman kita mabibigyan ng tamang salary, so kikita ka na lang doon sa pag nag-market ka ng dyaryo natin or ng news outlet. Di ba yung ganung practice, dapat mawala yan sa isipan ng mga owners. Hopefully merong makikinig ng mga owners sa atin dito, ano?
Pero Ariel, that's easier said than done, I
I
suppose.
know, I know, I know naman eh. Pero, Kaloy, my point is that if we don't start provoking them, much like when yung tabo pa yan sa PPI, hanggang naisip na namin na, ay, okay pala, pinag-usapan sila lagi kasi every time na parang kino-call out mo, or hindi naman call out, yung parang tinatapik mo, parang nabibigla din eh. And that's a good thing. Madali siyang sabihin, Kaloy, pero madali din hindi madali. Pero kailangan mong sabihin
Yeah,
para
yeah.
ma-provoke. And the significant or little steps na kailangan nilang gawin na binabanggit ko kanina, wag mo namang gawing marketer yung ano mo, reporter, kasi reporter nga yan eh. Di ba yung
Mhm,
mga
mhm.
ganung bagay? Isa lang naman yan. Isang
Pero
case.
Jonax, sa inyo JP, which is workers welfare journalist welfare ang key advocacy niya. Saan papasok dito yung mga ganitong usapin? Kayo sa ganitong usapin na mga welfare and journalists na because of the setup nila are being forced to conduct themselves in an ethical manner because yun ang expectation sa kanila ng mga media, ng mga bossing nila.
Ayan, actually, no, mainit na discussion actually itong nangyari to, no. Kasi may mga kasama tayo from the community press na parang sabi lang, hindi naman naiintindihan yung realities namin. No? Kasi nga, specifically, may mga ganyan mga practices or yun nga, yung hindi ka makakapag-cover kasi wala ka pang gasto, your course basically, na mag ganyan, ano. Um, so, initially, parang ang sinasabi natin, yun yung ethics eh, bawal talaga dapat yan. We agreed in 1988 na ganito yung pamantayan natin sa profession natin. Yun. Mahirap talaga, but kailangan sundin. But at the same time, meron ding recognition naman na if it's a matter of survival, sino naman na kung nasa Maynila para sabihin, mali yan. Or, oo nga, mali yan. Pero kunyari, anong gagawa ko? Mapapataas ko ba necessarily yung sahod mo? Hindi naman. Of course, collectively, sana magawa natin yon. Pero yung reality nga is that yung sinasabi lang hindi ka mapapakain ng ethics, minsan, in a lot of situations, totoo yun. So you have to, yun nga, kapit sa patalim, ano. I'm saying this not to normalize it. Kasi nangyayari naman talaga. But yun nga, it shouldn't be that way. And parang siguro kung media owner ka at hindi mo kaya magpasahod ng maayos sa mga reporters, sa mga stringers mo, then baka you have to reconsider your business or maghanap ka ng other funding na ayos naman, di ba? Kasi yun din ang problema. Pag nagsara naman itong mga to, paano yung sino magsaserve sa community na yun? Sino magsaserve sa public na yun? Ano? So medyo mahirap talaga siyang, ah, mahirap na timplahin.
So, yung question dito, relevant pa ba yung pag-usapan natin to? Kasi mahirap na nga yung media. Ano ba yung stake natin sa Code of Ethics? Well, the thing is, the Code of Ethics could still govern or the practice natin in terms of, sabi ko, accuracy, fairness, transparency, and accountability. However, it appears na may mga news organizations and individuals that fell short of in their supposed critical engagement with the government, with politicians and the elites and the business sector, for example. They forgot the role as journalists, which is really to provide information that the people would need, and to make sense of the world around them, so to speak. So, sabi na, because of this, they say that there are media critics that say that we are losing the trust of the public because of those undesirable practices of some journalists. But there are also those who exploited the audience distrust of media, like some individuals who use the media for their undisguised political ambitions. And ibang klase naman yun. And those are the things that we really have to call out. And so, despite the criticisms against these individuals with their undisguised political ambitions or undisguised money-making initiatives, they were untouched by their news organizations. So, balik tayo dun. How should news organizations actually police their own ranks or instill the seriousness of following or adhering to the code of ethics among their reporters? And there are no easy answers on that. Kasi we cannot, these things are practice-based, fairly practice-based, and tama yung sinabi kanina ni Jonathan,
Operational.
every decision that journalists make in the course of their work, there's ethical and moral assumptions, right? Although these assumptions are implicit, something that you learn from your everyday practice or your everyday interaction with your colleagues and employers or peers. So therefore, I think journalists should be aware of these assumptions or the code of ethics and to critically reflect on them. That's one. And of course, the same accountability should also be asked of their employers and also the subjects that they interview. And we should actually still ensure that we recognize the code of ethics as a living document. That despite the challenges, we have this document that we can invoke, we can review, we can turn to whenever we reach a point of may cul-de-sac, to a point that we have to take a stand or to decide that this is what we should do because we're journalists. And it's something that also that media organizations should recognize and make themselves accountable, as as media organizations, as a part of you know an media ecosystem or information ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason why when we all went into journalism, we were always told that this is a profession, this is a job that requires a lot of idealism, right? So,
Hello, sorry,
yeah,
which
go ahead.
brings to, susugan ko lang yung binanggit ni Joss sa kanya, which brings me to my own belief or point that napakahalaga, the academics or the academic institutions play a crucial, critical, pivotal role in safeguarding ethics or even calling out. Kasi sila supposedly neutral na parang alam nila there's wisdom to it. Katulad ni Josa, maganda sa kanya kasi He's been a journalist, tapos naging dean, academician, educator, etc. Yung mga ganong ano, because they are natural allies natin. Simply because we're also relying on them for the next set of journalists na nahubog ng maayos nila. Di ba yung ganon?
To sort of wrap this up, our discussion here, I'd like to offer something that might be a little bit controversial. And we all recognize just how big a problem ethics is in the industry, in the media industry. And it's something that, all of us right now in the past hour haven't really figured out a definitive way to handle this or to tackle this. And that's probably because there isn't one way or a definitive way to tackle this. So why don't we look at it from another perspective, which is that aside from putting the burden on the individual journalists and quite apart from expecting media owners and managers and capitalists, media capitalists, to sort of change their ways and their principles, why don't we encourage the flourishing of independent media and independent media outfits whose adherence to ethics and everything that we hold dear about journalism, such as independence, reliability, credibility, objectivity in terms of the process are proven. Meron ng mga ganong klaseng media outlet na in fact, itong mga media outlet na to, bihira kang makakita ng mga instances of media ethical lapses. And there must be a reason why. I'm not going to name any of this baka sabihin nila, sumisip-sip yan si Kaloy, but if you
Alternative media.
yeah, if you look really closely and well dun sa makeup ng Philippine media at this point, I think you would be missing a lot in the picture. You're missing a lot of nuance. Kung ang titingnan mo lang ay mainstream. Kung ang titingnan mo lang ay ABS-CBN, GMA, Inquirer, Philippine Star, because in my view, and having come from the alternative press myself, there is, a growth in the progressive media and the alternative media. And quite apart from sneering at this alternative media na mga leftist yan, mga kaliwayan, mga komunista yan, they're actually offering a way out in terms of addressing not just media ethics issues, but also professional issues. So, paano natin suportahan yung mga ganon? Kasi ang pupuntahan ko dito is that, and this is one of my biases now, is advocacy journalism and nonprofit journalism, which I think are kind of the realistic response to the problems we're seeing in the Philippine press. Your thoughts on this one before we wrap this up? Let's start with John Knox.
Maganda talaga yan. In fact, no, may nabasa akong libro, limang sa actually, na ang actual mainstream of dapat na tinitinan natin of journalism is yung alternative press. Ay the, iba yung set of, hindi naman principles necessarily, but iba yung lens. And it's probably more, I would say it's more, parang mas bagay siya sa Philippine perspective or sa Philippine setting din, given yung accumulation ng yung ownership problems that we do have. I think mabuti for the profession, mabuti for the community, for everyone, I guess, na mas maraming independent outlets, siguro to the point na hindi na sila alternative media sa sarili, parang sila na yung pupuntahan talaga na. Maganda yan. May space ang mainstream media, let's say sa mass market, no? Pero kung titingnan natin kasi rin yung trends, some, some titles, may mga niche publications na talaga that cater to a specific interest or to a specific sector. And it's probably one market na we can look into. And yeah, totoo. I think mataas naman talaga tingin natin sa mga nasa media.
I-qualify ko lang ng konti. When I say alternative progressive press, I'm not just referring to these usual outlets, Bulatlat, Pinoy Weekly, and all of that. Davao Today or hindi lang yun. ang mas ano ko pa doon is mas expansive ito in a sense na these are media outlets that are not owned by the usual set or type of owners. Okay? Ano ba yung usual type of owners ng Philippine media in the Philippines? You know, a lot of them are owned by politicians. A lot of them are owned by businesses with vested interests, right? So, yung mga labas doon,
Yeah.
yung mga walang ano, yun ang tinutukoy ko. So ang tanong ngayon, and this is something that's also I think important for Ariel to answer because yung constituency ng PPI, a lot of them are community media at hindi naman talaga big media if we call them. But you see what I mean here, Ariel, in terms of harnessing
Yeah.
the
Oo,
burgeoning
correct.
power or influence of the alternative press.
Nag-gets ko yung sinasabi mo kasi nung pandemic na nawala ang ABS-CBN, madaming mga empleyado ng ABS-CBN na bumuo ng independent media outfit. Bicol.ph and Bicol, sila Irene Perolin. Hindi siya yung pag-aari ng mga pamilya, pero pag-aari ng mga journalists. Sa Bacolod, meron din, dalawa. And then some other pockets of initiatives. Speaking of, because we're wrapping this up with some kind of a solution, hopefully, I'll go for an oversight, which is going to be really laborious. Binanggit ni Din Diyosa kanina. Kasi in Metro Manila alone, baka mahirapan tayong, hindi, but mahirap lang isipin, baka pwede natin gawin slowly. Yung i-aggregate, i-convene yung mga, whether it's NPC or PPI, mga ganon-ganon. Kahit magkatunggali, kailangan talaga to sit down and talk about a common ground, common denominator na tayong lahat may problema talaga. Matino ka man o hindi, may problema talaga tayong industriya natin. Number two, I'll go for some pockets of initiatives. Watching the watchdog. Ako sinasabi ko to when tayo, Jonax, di ba, involved ka dun sa creation because you do session on decriminalizing libel, di ba? Why is it important to establish pockets of initiatives outside Metro Manila? Baka mas madali. And we thought that was so easy to do. Then probably reorganizing the Philippine Press Council. That's ang balak namin talaga mas malawak na siya na hindi limited sa PPI or sa print lang. Anyway, yung pockets of initiatives I'm talking about are the media citizen councils na ando na siya, hindi siya media-centric, citizen-centric siya. Andun yung mga sectors na for the longest time sinasabi natin, tinatanong natin mga sarili natin, sino ba ang magwa-watch ng mga watchdog? Baka yun na nga yun. Sinasabi ko baka yung audience natin baka isipin lang, masyadong simplistic yung ino-offer ko na solution. That can be a progress towards some kind of solution. In telling everyone that, dahil nangingiam naman kayo sa profession namin, might as well meron tayong institution, just like the Media Citizen Councils, na andun kayo. Pag merong complaint na idudulog, mag-complain kayo, wag yun nang i-weaponize yung libel. Kasi decriminalization of libel na nga tayo. Probably color, but again, we only have, Josa, at the end of the year, Jonas, 14 media citizen councils, and we are an archipelago. Um,
Wow.
Quite a number, and it wasn't easy to do. Pero baka kailangan pa natin mas paramihan pa. To my last point about independent media, it's good that funding institutions are looking at startup companies and independent kasi nakitaan nila na the big ones can easily fend for themselves. Tinulungan ka nung umpisa, might as well para pluralistic na yung pagtulong natin at saka pagkaroon ng well-meaning media outfits ay tulungan natin yung startup companies which let's say in Europe na pag-aralan ko din when I did my fellowship dahil mature societies at mature yung government nila, there's a portion of the government funding that supports actually startup companies, which I think cannot happen in the Philippines. Ang mabuti, yung mga international or local funding look at itong mga startup companies kasi sila ang makakapagbigay ng panibagong mukha ng Philippine journalism.
That's why this podcast has to live on, Kaloy. And
Kaya
I'm wishing it well. As a startup, should we abandon the engagement with mainstream media then? I don't think so, because true to it is they still command the vast number of audience, and they have vast resources, of course. And So perhaps it's also time to revisit the so-called self-regulation aspect of the press as a tradition in Philippine journalism, and explore the possibility of a regulatory body to preside over complaints from the public against journalists and news organizations or the government and also among journalists. It's probably a way to restore the public trust in media. So let's think of the many ways that we can actually deal with the issue um, as it exploded recently. So one of them is still to engage with mainstream media and allow journalists to talk about this and bring media owners and discuss these issues. And probably there's hope to restore the public's trust in media, which actually was diminished after the controversy started by Mayor Soto.
Yan.
So let's wish Kaloy well on this
Well, thank you. This
podcast.
has been, this has
Kaloy,
been,
teka lang ha.
oh,
Bago
sige.
mo i-close to, kailangan nating sagutin para alam ng audience mo, tama ba yun o hindi? Kasi hindi pa natin sinasagot.
Yung ginawa ni
Kasi
Mayor Vico?
nila,
Mhm.
pati nila, hindi, wag na yung kay Mayor Vico. Kay Corina and Julie.
Okay, yeah.
Kasi kailangan natin iparating tama ba o mali. Kasi madaling sabihin na ah, it's business. Kailangan tawag dito, mabuhay yung isang programa o isang platform or isang news outfit. Pero there's money involved. Tama ba?
Well,
Kailangan sagutin natin yan.
okay, sige, let's do that. Well, actually, to begin with, I don't think I don't think na-establish na definitively na meron ngang bayaran na nangyari. That's just an allegation for now. I think ang mas crucial pa or mas basic na tanong dito is that what's the business of these two journalists? Because we still call them journalists, si Corina and Julius, although they're newsreaders now, profiling, spending time, and pretty much creating content na pabor dun sa subject nila. And without even factoring in the issues that na involved dito, that these are big contractors, corruption is a big issue in the Philippines, and yet they go there, they marveled at the cars, imported cars, the luxurious cars, and not a question about whether, saan galing yung pera nyo? DPWH, how did you do it? So it's all very, very superficial na ginawa ni Corina at saka ni Julius Babaw. Tingin ko, in the absence of any proof na money changed hands, mas yun pa yung i-interrogate natin. So I'm curious to know what you think of that.
Ako,
Sige.
merong sinabi si Dage Lawrence na never trust the teller, trust the tale. So I was thinking, kasi hindi ko ma-divine yung motive. I cannot divine the motive of the storytellers, I mean the anchors. So I would look at the video and say that probably what about thinking of it as a strategy they devised to really expose this incredulous claim ng
Sorry.
yung mayayaman na couple. And for me as an audience, nakikita ko, oh my God, these are incredulous claims. These are incredible claims. And then they let the story roll and showing all these plastic cars and crazy claims like I bought this car because I like the champagne glass or the payong. And in doing so, gave us a glimpse of how rotten, how the system is, this politics behind it, and that's also useful in a way to expose what's going on, and also to give us an idea that this thing is happening. The thing is, as we said, if there's a complaint, there should be a way to file it. What are the ethical guidelines violated? We should be clear on that. And as of now, yung 10 million pesos is still
Still missing.
missing.
It's still
But the
implied.
thing is, yeah. But the thing is, we could only discuss this. But we should ask our colleagues to think about this both as a strategy at the same time as an ethical dilemma that they have to think about.
Oo.
I think the more we discuss it, I think the more it will be clearer to us in the next few days. So let's keep the conversation going and to find
Yeah.
out what's really going on in the media.
Ano, sorry, di ba, Josa, kasi if you have keen sense of ethics, sa malayo pa lang naamoy mo yun. I think there's a missing point and the missed opportunity there. Madaling sabihin kasi na, leave it to the lifestyle. Ano kasi lifestyle,
Yeah,
ano, profile, ganon-ganon. Investigative naman, can do it and all. But this is one and the same. Journalism pinag-uusapan natin dito eh. Whether you do lifestyle, etc. Kaya nga, di ba, parang, uh, speak of strategy pala. I don't know kung strategy talaga. Kaya nga ibang mga dyaryo, malaki, maliit. Meron talaga lifestyle section because that's where they actually gain, which I think is not wrong. Kasi dapat pag kung perang pinag-uusapan, there's transparency, accountability. You know where money is going. Ibig sabihin, you're because unang-una you're paid as a journalist. Pero pag meron nagbabayad in exchange para to go beyond what is expected of you, beyond your work, parang iba rin usapin na yun. Kasi alam mo na yun eh. Dapat alam mo na kung ano
yeah.
yung mali. Di ba?
Yeah, most of the things kasi ethical issues hunch to eh. Yung gut feel natin na
Mm.
may mali doon.
Mm.
And then that's the time that i-consult mo yung colleagues mo, yung code of ethics, gagawin ko ba to o hindi. So
Mm.
I would like to know ano bang
Ay,
what's
sorry,
going on?
Rosa, Kaloy and Jonax, meron akong, sa akin lang to from way back when I was starting in the industry. Ang tawag ko dyan, murmurings of conscience. It's between you and your ano eh, between you and your audience, between you and your God, between you and whoever. Pag merong persistent dun sa utak mo na parang mali and all. May mali talaga.
That's your
Yeah.
Catholic sensibility kicking in.
Yes,
Exactly.
that's
That's
true.
the murmurings of my
But the
conscience.
thing is, balik tayo kanina, ano ba yung sinasabi ng news organization nila? I have yet to hear the news organizations saying what went wrong, why were they allowing this, what 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 was the policy actually, what were the guidelines followed by this journalist, and how did they explain this before the public?
Yeah.
So in other words, a lot of people have to do the explaining what went wrong here. Not just the anchors, not just the team that did a story, but also the news organizations. What happened?
I agree. Yeah.
What were their policies? And they were so quiet. Ano bang nangyayari? They have to be transparent and they have to be accountable for what happened or for what happened. Sorry.
Siguro na lang, ayaw naman natin umabot sa point na didiktahan natin like kung sino ang dapat nilang i-feature and how, no? Kasi that goes into other editorial judgment na, no? Pero ang simple lang din naman ang hinihingi, ang ethical na ano yan is disclosure if there was payment received, no? Sabihin na this
Closure.
Yeah.
segment was sponsored by whatever, ganyan, ano? Tsaka yung independence mo as a if you're calling yourself a journalist, yeah, which they are, no, sa mga shows na ito, you have to be independent. You have to be able to ask nga na, so sige, let's say, yumaman kayo after DPWH, bakit, paano, di ba? Yung mga ganon. Um, and if they didn't ask, hindi rin siguro mali for the public to think na, oh, baka may pera na nag-enhance dito. I mean, look out mo yan as a practitioner and it's really something that they have to face and they have to explain. No? Pero yun lang, simple lang naman. Kung tumanggap ka ng pera for it, dapat hindi. Pero kung tumanggap ka ng pera for it, you have to disclose it. Kasi yun. Dahil nga tumanggap ka, let's say, na tumanggap ka ng pera, medyo matatali yung kamay mo na magtanong na mas hard to think questions. So that will be a disservice to your audience din and actually to yourself as well. Kasi pangalan mo yan eh. So kung okay lang sa'yo yun, then that's your lookout.
Yeah.
Pero 'di ba parang ang nangyari, nadama yung buong community. And so we're all saying, ay hindi kami ganyan, hindi kami ganyan. Which okay naman din, I guess.
One thing I need to point out is that in the case of the Discaya interviews, I mean, it's clear that they were approached to do it because of their journalistic credibility and popularity. And there's a reason for that, obviously. I mean, the Discayas probably wanted to, to come across as successful business people, and they're doing that, and they're asking these people who have such, journalistic chops, Dow, and also popularity to do that. And
They
I
could
think,
have said they could have said no, right?
yeah, I know, but the reason why they're being approached is because one, they are on a certain perch, and second,
They
uh,
know that they can say yes.
na-approach sila.
Oh, yeah,
And
exactly.
that's a problem. So anyway, I hope that answers some of the questions on the Disgaea interviews. But I think pulling back now as we close this episode, certainly the media in the Philippines faces a lot of issues. I mean, it's not just even media ethics and corruption. I mean, the more egregious ones are the attacks, the threats, the murders, and all of the things the sort of the things that are happening, that are being done against journalists in the Philippines. But I think as we grapple with media ethics and media corruption, I don't think there's a silver bullet to begin with. I think we also need to look at other ways to try to deal with a problem. And one of the things which I adverted to earlier, which is that okay, let's continue the discourse on media ethics. Let's continue educating our students about media ethics, journalistic ethics, and all of that. But also at the same time, I think there needs to be a more coordinated, a stronger approach to try to develop independent journalism in the Philippines outside of the ambit of the usual business capitalist model that we've seen over the decades. Because I don't think really serious independent journalism can exist in that ecosystem. Mahihirapan talaga ang publiko niyan. And given the many issues in this country, the many problems that we're seeing, the many social illnesses that is happening in this country, given all of these, I'm just talking about human rights violations, killings, everything, the whole dysfunction of Philippine society. The fact is that the media has failed to respond to that. The mainstream media has failed to respond to that. And the issue now is how do you deal with that? So as I said, as we try to deal with that on a piecemeal approach, perhaps let's widen our options. Let's devise more weapons on how to make the Philippine media more responsive to the challenges that they face as they cover the news in the Philippines. Thank you so much, Jonathan De Santos, NUJP's chairman, Ariel
Yeah.
Sendillo, Philippine Press Institute Executive Director, and Josa Laviste, Dean of the College of Media and Communications at the University of the Philippines. It's been such a pleasure talking to you about this, and definitely we will. There's a lot of things to talk about, to unpack about what we discussed today, and I'm definitely going to reach out to you and perhaps other people as well to try to make sense of all of this. Salamat na marami sa inyo.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaloy.